Excuse me. Hello. Good afternoon. I think I better plug this in. Plug in the power cord. There we go. Welcome. My name is Miss Carla, which hopefully you've seen the other videos and you already know that, but if not, you can always go back and watch them if you want to catch up. I'm going to continue reading Tunnel of Bones by Victoria Schwab. And this is the second book in the Cassidy Blake series. The first one was City of Ghosts, which we read over the summer. And again, there is a playlist on PCL's YouTube channel of my read aloud of that book. But you don't really need to have read that book to catch up on what's going on in Tunnel of Bones, because there's a pretty good, quick backstory given. Oh yes, last time we made it to part 2, which is called Mischief Maker. And that brings us to chapter 7, and we're on page 63, if you're kind of trying to track how far we've made it so far. Do you ever feel like you're being followed? That prickle on the back of your neck that tells you someone is watching? I can't shake that feeling as we reach the top of the stairs, trading the tunnels for the Paris streets. As we walk, I keep glancing back over my shoulder, sure that I'll see something, someone. And every time I look, I feel like I've just missed them. My eyes start playing tricks on me until every shadow looks like it's moving. Every streak of sunlight has a shape. I try to tell myself it's nothing, just the residual creeps clinging like cobwebs. It's lunchtime, and we snag a table at a sidewalk cafe. All of us, I think, are grateful for the fresh air. Mom and Dad discuss the next filming location, the Jardin de Luxembourg, and I order something called a croque monsieur, which turns out to be like a fancy grilled cheese with ham. As I eat, the warm sandwich helps dispel the last of the catacombs' chill, but my attention keeps drifting down to the sidewalk, remembering the city of the dead under my feet. I wonder how many people cross these streets and never realize they're walking over bones. Morbid much? Calls Jacob over his shoulder. He's standing in the sun, the light shining through him as he studies a rock on the curb, readying to kick it. And then, out of nowhere, I shiver. It's like someone put a cold hand on the back of my neck. It's all I can do not to yelp in surprise. A sharp breath hisses through my teeth. Mom glances toward me, but before she can ask what's wrong, there's a ripping sound overhead. The edge of the cafe's awning tears free. "Cassidy, look out!" shouts Jacob. One of the metal hooks in the corner of the awning sweeps down toward our table, shattering the pitcher of water right in front of my seat. I jump back just in time, avoiding all of the glass and most of the water. Mom and Dad gasp, and Pauline's on her feet, one hand clutching the front of her blouse in surprise. Anton and Annette shake their heads and examine the broken awning, exchanging a flurry of French. A waiter rushes out, full of apologies, as he sweeps up the damage. He moves us to another table, and everyone tries to shake off the strangeness of the incident. Mom keeps fussing over me, checking me for cuts. I assure her I'm okay, even though I'm feeling a little dizzy. I look back at our old table. It could have been nothing. A faulty screw in the awning? An old piece of cloth? Bad luck. But what about the rush of cold I felt right before the awning broke? What was that? A warning? "Do you think you're becoming psychic now?" asks Jacob. Even though I'm 90% sure that's not in the in-betweener job description, I text Laura under the table. Me. "Hey." Me. "Do people like us have any other powers?" A few moments later, Laura texts back. Lara. "Some are intuitive. The more time they spend in the in-between, the stronger their spectral senses get." Why do you ask? I hesitate before writing back. Me. Just curious. Winky face. Lara. Straight face. That's how I would describe it. They're little emojis. I don't think she believes her. Jacob looks over my shoulder. Ha, he says. It looks just like her. I have to hand it to the French. They really love dessert. As we walk to the next location, we pass shops devoted to chocolate, 4 window displays of small cakes as intricate and detailed as sculptures, countless ice cream carts, and counter after counter filled with tiny, brightly colored cookie sandwiches called macarons, in flavors like rose, caramel, blackberry, and lavender. Mom buys a box of macarons and offers me one the buttery color of sunshine. I try to focus on the cookie instead of the shaky feeling in my stomach, the stutter step of my pulse, the nagging sense that something is wrong. When I bite into the macaron, the outside crackles before giving way to soft cream and a bright burst of citrus. Like a natural, says Pauline. Next, you must try escargot. Mom and Dad both laugh, which makes me nervous. When I start to ask, Mom pats my shoulder and says, You don't want to know. Dad leans in and whispers in my ear, Snails. I really hope he's joking. Here we are, says Mom, the Luxembourg Gardens. You keep using that word, says Jacob. I don't think it means what you think it means. He's got a point. These gardens look like they were designed using complicated math. Massive trees, their tops cut into parallel lines, lead like giant green walls to another huge palace. The packed sand paths carve the lawns into geometric shapes, their edges trimmed with roses and dotted by statues. The grass is so short and so smooth, I can imagine someone down on their hands and knees trimming it blade by blade with a tiny pair of scissors. Mom veers left, ducking onto a wooded path, and we follow. The sand crackles beneath our shoes as we walk, and then Mom stops and lowers herself onto a bench. Do you want to hear a story? She says, her voice soft and sweet and creepy. And just like that, we all shuffle closer. Mom has always had that power over people, always been the kind of storyteller who makes her listeners lean in. Even Pauline can't really hide her interest. Her hand drifts to her collar as she listens, the way it has a few times today. A nervous tick, I think. Though it's strange, after all, she said she's a skeptic. What does she have to be nervous about? Anton has started filming, and when Mom speaks again, she's not just talking to us, but to an invisible audience. One lovely evening in 1925, a gentleman sat on a bench here in the Jardin du Luxembourg. She pauses to pat the seat beside her, enjoying a book in the fine weather, when a man in a black coat came up and invited him to his home for a concert. The gentleman accepted and followed the man in black back to his apartment, where he found a party in full swing and passed the night with music and wine and excellent company. Mom flashes a mischievous grin and sits forward. In the early hours of the morning, the gentleman left, but shortly after, he realized he was missing his cigarette lighter and returned to collect it. But when he arrived, he found the place dark, the doors and windows boarded shut. It was a neighbor who told him that a musician had once lived there, but that he died more than 20 years before. A little shudder runs through me, but this one is simple. The almost pleasant chill that comes with a good ghost story. Not like what I felt earlier at the cafe. And yet, to this day, finishes Mom, if you linger in the park as the sun goes down, you just might be approached by a man in a black coat, extending the same invitation. The only question is, will you accept? Finally, says Jacob, a friendly ghost story. As Mom rises from the bench, a cold breeze blows past. This one feels like the cool air I felt at the cafe. I'm fighting back another shiver when sand crackles under feet on the path behind me. I twist around, catching someone, in the corner of my eye. But when I look at the path head on, no one's there. Did you I start, but Jacob has already moved ahead with the rest of the group. I let out an unsteady breath. Cass, calls Dad. You coming? I frown, then jog to catch up. If you keep glancing over your shoulder, says Jacob, you're going to hurt your neck. He starts walking backward beside me. Here, I'll look for you. He shoves his hands in his pockets and squints into the distance. You still think we're being followed? I don't know, I say, shaking my head. Something just feels off. It has all day. Maybe Mercury is in retrograde. I look at him. What does that mean? I have no idea, admits Jacob, turning back around, but I've heard people say it when things go wrong. I frown. I don't think planets have anything to do with this. Jacob shrugs, and we walk in silence toward our final location for the day. The Eiffel Tower isn't exactly subtle. You can see it halfway across Paris, a dark lace spire up against the sky. Up close, it's massive. It looms like a giant steel beast over the city. The park at the tower's base is brimming with people, all sprawled in the afternoon sun, and the mood is the opposite of spooky. Yet when my parents start filming, I swear the clouds slide in and a light breeze rustles Mom's hair and casts a shadow on Dad's face. They bring the atmosphere with them. The Eiffel Tower, says Dad, as Anton films him. One of the most famous architectural feats and iconic tourist attractions in the world. A marker of history. Mom picks up, her voice smooth. And story. She glances over her shoulder at the tower before continuing. Back at the start of the 20th century, a young American fell in love with a French girl, and after courting her, he took her up the tower to propose. But when he drew out the ring, she was so surprised that she leaped back, slipped over the edge, and fell. I swallow, my skin humming with nervous energy. Maybe it's just the near miss at the cafe, but the Eiffel Tower suddenly looks like an accident waiting to happen. There are a dozen stories just like that, says Dad, sounding skeptical. Perhaps they're simply urban legends. Or perhaps one of them is true, counters Mom. Visitors claim to have seen a young woman perched on the darkened rail, still grinning like a bride. A small movement catches the corner of my eye. It's Pauline. As Mom and Dad tell the story, her hand drifts up to her collar again. As I watch, she draws something out from beneath her blouse. It's a silver necklace, a pendant swinging from the end. My heart lurches, and I think of the mirror in my back pocket, ready to dispel any restless spirits. But then her pendant catches the light, and I see it's not a mirror, but an ordinary bit of jewelry, a silver disc worn smooth from use. As I watch, she rubs her thumb over it, her lips moving as she whispers something to herself. What is that? I ask, and she shows me the talisman. Most of the details have been worn away, but I can just make out the lines of an eye. It's an old symbol, she says, meant to ward off evil. I thought you didn't believe in this kind of stuff. I don't, she answers quickly, waving her hand. Just a bit of superstition. I'm not sure I believe her. Well, says Mom, coming over to us and clapping her hands. Shall we go up? I swallow. Up? I echo, studying the tower. Confession. I don't love heights. I wouldn't go so far as to say I'm afraid of them, but I'll never be the girl standing on the edge, arms spread wide like that moment in Harry Potter when Harry rides the hippogriff for the first time. Movie edition, obviously. But I also can't bear the thought of missing out. It takes 2 elevators and several sets of stairs, but finally we step out onto the highest viewing platform in Paris. There's a protective gate, but I hang back. Up here, the air is colder, and I wonder if I'd be able to feel a sudden change in temperature, a warning, if that's what it was, before something goes wrong. The Eiffel Tower looks like it's held together with a million nuts and bolts. What would happen if one of them broke? Or a sudden gust of wind forced me toward the edge? I shake my head to clear it. I'm starting to sound as paranoid as Jacob. You say paranoid, I say practical, counters Jacob. And then, before I can protest, Mom links her arm through mine and draws me closer to the edge. As Dad rests his hand on my shoulder, I forget to be afraid. The entire city sprawls beneath me as far as I can see, white and gold and green, and I know there is no photo in this world that can capture this view. And for a moment, I forget about the ghosts that supposedly haunt this tower. For a moment, I almost forget the eerie, off-kilter feeling of being followed. For a moment, Paris is simply magical. Just wait, says Jacob cheerfully. I'm sure something will go wrong. That's the end of that chapter. You see my kitty cat mug? It even has ears and a little tail. Chapter 8. The crew hands Mom and Dad the day's footage so they can review it. And Pauline kisses each of us twice, once on each cheek, and slips away into the late afternoon light. Mom and Dad decide we should have a picnic in the hotel room. We stop by a street market and buy bread, cheese, sausages, and fruit. Mom hums, shopping bags swinging from her fingers. Dad has a baguette under his arm, and I snap a photo of them, smiling to myself. By the time we get back to the hotel, it feels like we've walked across the whole city. We climb to the room on aching legs, and I'm the last one through. Cass, get the door, says Mom, her arms full of food. I nudge the door shut with my foot and tug the camera strap over my head, retreating to the little bedroom. Jacob and I flop down on the bed. What a strange day, I think. Even stranger than usual, admits Jacob. I roll over with a groan, and I'm just reaching for one of the comics in my bag when Mom's voice cuts through the suite. Cassidy! Jacob sits up. That doesn't sound good. My mom has a lot of voices. There's the I'm proud of you voice, the you're late for dinner voice, the I need to talk to you about this life-changing decision your father and I have made voice. And then there's the you are in so much trouble voice. That's the one Mom's using. I head into the main room and find her standing, arms crossed by the hotel room door. It's open. What did I ask you to do? She snaps, and I look from her to the door in confusion. I closed it, I say, glancing toward Jacob, who only shrugs. Don't look at me, he says. I didn't open it. And I don't really understand the big deal until I hear Dad out in the hall calling, Here, kitty, kitty, and rattling Grimm's food dish. Uh-oh. He got out? I cry. Here's the thing. Grimm isn't a normal cat. He's not a hunter, and not even all that fast. Back home, he moved around about as much as a loaf of bread, so even if I did leave the door open, which I know I didn't, the chances of him going anywhere are slim to none. And yet, he's not here. He's not in the hallway either. We split up. Dad makes his way up the stairs toward the third floor. Mom heads down to the lobby, and Jacob and I comb the space between. How did he get out? Why did he get out? Grimm's never shown much interest in the outside world. The few times he wandered beyond our front porch, he made it as far as the nearest patch of sun before sprawling out on his back to take a nap. Grimm, I call softly. Grimm, echoes Jacob. My throat tightens a little. Where is he? We look behind potted plants and under tables, but there's no sign of the cat on the second floor, or the first. No sign as we reach the lobby where Mom's talking to the concierge, and I decide to check the salon where we had breakfast. It's out of service for the night, but one of the glass doors is open a crack. A gap just large enough for a cat. I slip through, Jacob on my heels. I paw at the wall, searching for the light switch, but I can't find one. Even though the curtains have been pulled shut, the Rue de Rivoli shines through just enough light to see by. Grimm, I call softly, trying to keep my voice steady as I creep between the tables. And then, between one step and the next, I suck in a breath. It's like hitting a patch of cold air. A sudden shiver rolls through me. Jacob. Ding, ding, ding. Jacob and I both look up. A chandelier hangs overhead, crystals chiming faintly as they sway. Jacob and I glance at each other. My look says, "Was that you?" And his says, "Are you crazy?" The cold gets worse, and as I watch, the tablecloth begins to slide from a nearby table, dragging the place settings with it. I lunge toward it, a fraction too late. The plates and silverware go crashing to the floor, and a second later, a shape darts through the darkness to my left. It's shadow on shadow, too dark to see, but one thing's for certain, it's larger than a cat. Before I can follow it, Jacob calls out, "Found him!" I turn back and see Jacob on his hands and knees on the other side of the room, looking beneath the chair. Sure enough, there's Grim, but when I get close, he hisses. Grim never hisses, but now he looks up at me, his green eyes wide and his ears thrown back, fangs bared. And when I reach for him, he darts past me, through Jacob's outstretched hands, and out of the salon. We chase after him into the lobby, where the very displeased desk clerk who checked us in yesterday catches him by the scruff of the neck. She turns toward Mom. "I believe," she says curtly, "this belongs to you." Mom scowls at the cat. "I'm so sorry," she says, taking the thoroughly unhappy Grim, turning her glare on me. "It won't happen again." But as I follow her back upstairs, all I can think is, I'm sure I closed the door. Mom and Dad set out the makeshift picnic on the low coffee table, and the tension dissolves as we sit on pillows on the floor, eating apples and cheese and fresh baguette. As my parents discuss the day's filming, my mind wanders back again and again to the cold. I felt it at lunch, right before the awning broke, and again on the path in the gardens, and again downstairs in the salon. And every time, it came with the feeling, just as strong, that I wasn't alone. Something certainly spooked Grim. He's handled it by collapsing into a fluffy mound, snoring softly at the foot of my bed. What did he see? What did I see? I think of the shadow in the salon. Maybe it was a trick of the eye. Streetlights making shapes. "You okay, Cass?" asks Mom. "You look a mile away." I manage a smile. "Sorry," I say, "just tired." I push up from the table and grab my phone. I need a second opinion. I text Lara. Me. "Can you talk?" Me. "Need help." 10 seconds later, the phone rings. I head for the bathroom, and Jacob follows me inside. He's careful to keep his back to the mirror as I close the door and answer. "Cassidy Blake," says a prim English voice. "In trouble already?" I hit the video chat button, and after a second of buffering, Lara Chowdhury appears on screen. She's sitting in a high-back chair, a cup of tea balanced on a stack of books beside her. Her attention flicks to Jacob. "I see you still have your pet ghost." Jacob scowls. "Jealous you don't have one too?" "Lay off," I say, addressing both of them. Lara sighs and leans her head on one hand. Her black hair is pulled up in a messy bun on top of her head. It's the first time anything about Lara could be described as messy, and... "Are those Harry Potter pajamas?" I ask. She looks down at herself. "Just because they're blue and bronze. They're totally Harry Potter pajamas, aren't they?" Lara bristles. "They're comfortable. If they just happen to accurately represent my chosen house..." She shakes her head and changes course. "How's Paris?" "Haunted." "Tell me about it," she says. "I was there last summer, and I certainly had my hands full." "Where have you been so far?" "The Tuileries, the Luxembourg Gardens, the Eiffel Tower. Oh, and the catacombs." "You went into the catacombs?" Lara sounds almost impressed. "Yeah," I say. "It wasn't that bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a day at the beach, but with so many skeletons, I thought it would be worse." Lara shrugs. "Graveyards are usually pretty quiet." "I know, but since the bodies were disturbed, I thought..." "Oh, please," said Lara. "If ghosts got riled up every time their bones were moved, there wouldn't be room in the in-between." "But the catacombs are haunted," I say. "Of course they're haunted," says Lara. All of Paris is haunted, but I'm sure the catacombs aren't 6 million angry spirits haunted. Lara straightens in her chair. Well, you didn't call just to catch up. No, I chew my lip. Something weird is going on. I tell her about the awning breaking at lunch, the sense of being followed, Grim getting out, and the tablecloth that moved in the salon, not to mention the shadow. And I tell her about the cold rush I felt right before each one. Laura's eyes narrow as I talk. Cassidy, she says slowly when I'm done, you might have attracted a poltergeist. She sounds nervous, which makes me nervous. What's a poltergeist? Asked Jacob. It's a spirit drawn to spectral energy, says Lara, keeping her attention on me. It was probably dormant until it sensed yours, Cassidy. Her eyes flicked toward Jacob. Or his. That code sensation you've been feeling, it is a kind of intuition, a warning that strong spirits are near. Okay, I say, perching on the bathtub. But a poltergeist is just a kind of ghost, right? A very dangerous kind of ghost, says Lara. They feed on chaos. Cassidy, calls Mom, knocking on the door. Everything all right in there? Yep, I call back. Just brushing my teeth. I lower my voice as I turn back to Lara. But how can a poltergeist cause trouble in the real world? Shouldn't it be locked in the veil? Lara pinches the bridge of her nose. Poltergeists are wanderers. They're not stuck in a loop or a memory, and they aren't tied to the place they died. They've come loose from the in-between. They can move freely through it and even reach across the veil into our world. Like the Raven in Red, I say, recalling the ghostly woman who haunted Edinburgh, stealing its children before she stole my life. Yes, says Lara. And no, even the Raven couldn't leave the in-between until she had your life. That's why she had to lure you in. But poltergeists already have one foot on either side, so congratulations, you've managed to wake something even more dangerous. My stomach drops at the thought. The Raven wasn't exactly a piece of cake. It's like a video game, says Jacob, where the boss on each level is harder to beat. Lara frowns. That's an overly simplistic way of looking at this, but I suppose so. Okay, I say, mind spinning, but a poltergeist is still a spirit, so I just need to find it and send it back. Yes, says Lara, as soon as possible. Poltergeists start with little things, acts of mischief, but eventually they turn to menace and then mayhem. Violence. I think of the torn awning, the glass shattering on the table, how lucky I was I didn't get cut. They don't have any qualms about hurting people, even killing them, warns Lara. And the more trouble a poltergeist causes, the more powerful they get. She looks to Jacob and then back at me, her next words pointed. Spirits this strong have no place in our world, Cassidy. Every minute they're loose, they cause damage to the balance and the veil. Jacob looks down at the floor, hands closing into fists. We both know she's talking about more than the poltergeist. I clear my throat. Well, great, I say. Thanks for the pep talk. Sure you don't want to make a trip down to Paris? A sad smile flickers across Lara's face. I wish, she says. But I'm here if you need me. And Cassidy? Yeah? Do be careful. And you, she glares at Jacob, as long as you're here, make yourself useful. She hangs up, and I'm left staring down at the darkened screen. You know, says Jacob dryly, I think she's starting to like me. I sigh and kick him out so I can brush my teeth for real. I need my sleep. Tomorrow I'm going to hunt a poltergeist. By the time I climb into bed, Jacob's nowhere to be seen. He doesn't stick around at night, but the truth is, I don't know where he goes. Sometimes even psychic ghosts' best friends have secrets. Let's see. I think that's the perfect place to stop. We will be on Chapter 9, page 87. And I mentioned this in the Facebook post where I linked this video, this live stream. But as you may have noticed, I moved to 2 o'clock. So for this week and next week, I will be reading still on Mondays and Wednesdays, but at 2 p.m. instead of 9:30 a.m. After these 2 weeks are over, I will probably be going back to 9:30 a.m. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't. But also, if you come into the libraries in Providence, take a look at our website because our hours are going to be changing next week. In some ways, they're going to be quite different. So make sure you take a look so you know what hours the library is open for you to come by, to check out books or if you need to use the computer. We do have short computer visits available now. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great day, and I will see you on Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Bye-bye.